G'day folks, Mad Aussie here, and welcome to the Aussie Report. In this episode we're going to take a look at AHPRA and sort of a little bit about who they are, and then we're going to hear a short lecture from a medical practitioner here in Australia who has had a lot of trouble with their bullying and harassment, as he would call it. So I went to the AHPRA website, and that simply says, the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, AHPRA, works with the 15 national boards to help protect the public by regulating Australia's registered health practitioners. Together, our primary role is to protect the public and set standards and policies that all registered health practitioners must meet. Each board has a health profession agreement with AHPRA that sets our fees, budget, and the services provided by AHPRA. The Agency Management Committee oversees AHPRA's work. The chair is Miss Gil Callister, PSM. Mr. Martin Fletcher is AHPRA's CEO and is supported by senior managers across Australia. Our staff are based in 8 state and territory AHPRA offices, as well as our national office in Melbourne. So what we do for information about the work for AHPRA. See what we do for information about the work for AHPRA. And then it has the ABN number. So let's just take a look at the 15 national boards that they represent. So each health profession that is part of the National Registration and Accreditation Scheme is represented by a national board. While the primary role of the board is to protect the public, the boards are also responsible for registering practitioners and students, as well as other functions for their professions. The 15 national boards are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Practice Board of Australia, Chinese Medicine Board of Australia, Chiropractic Board of Australia, Dental Board of Australia, Medical Board of Australia, Medical Radiation Practice Board of Australia, Nursing and Midwifery Board of Australia, Occupation Therapy Board of Australia, Optometry Board of Australia, Osteotherapy Board of Australia, Paramedicine Board of Australia, Pharmacy Board of Australia, Physiotherapy Board of Australia, Podiatry Board of Australia, and Psychology Board of Australia. So all them practices across Australia are all governed and overseen by AHPRA. So there's a lot of claims of bullying and harassment by AHPRA towards doctors to make them to conform to certain practices and regulations. So let's hear now from a Dr. Gary Fettke, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Before I ask Gary to come to the stage, I just want to take a quick hands up of who's in the audience. Have we got any health professionals here? Any? Very good. Okay. I know that. So there's a point to the question. Thank you. So what's the biggest health risk in the community today? What's killing more people than anything else?
Regulation. Medical practice.
No. So it's actually chronic disease?
Yeah.
So what's the key thing that is important in chronic disease management? Diet and exercise, right? Right. So anybody not give their patients that advice? Okay, thank you. So Gary, you're a legend in your own time. Next to Charlie Teo, who's appeared on more places of Australian Doctor this year for bad reasons. Thank you very much for coming and telling us about your experience. Gary, as you know, is an orthopaedic surgeon with a long-standing interest in preventive aspects of health outcome, particularly before surgery, funnily that. His open nutrition advice on healthy eating has come under investigation by AHPRA after anonymous vexation notifications. His case has become legend, and I hope we can get some solutions from it. So can you please welcome Gary to the stage? Thank you.
I don't know if legend is sort of sits very comfortably in Mukesh. I don't think legend sits comfortably with me. I do have two claims to fame. The first is that Maxine was one of my students. So it's nice to see the seed not falling too far from the tree. We'll see how we go here. Is AHPRA throwing rocks inside their own glass house?
Yes.
AHPRA was a marriage of 14 health professional bodies 7 years ago. I believe a good marriage is built on respect and does not condone bullying under any circumstances. If you throw rocks in a glass house, things break. And I think in the last Senate inquiry, AHPRA threw 2 rocks in their own glass house. A lack of respect and intimidation means the end of a relationship. Respect has to be from all parties. We need policing as health professionals. We also need to respect the process. Now, I do respect the police and the common law, and I'm going to draw some comparisons today. And over the last 7 years, AHPRA and the national law have not earned my respect, nor that of the health professionals they are meant to represent. I respect the common law and the system that implements it. It is based on the rules of natural justice. The common law has origins in the Magna Carta from 1215. The common law is the base of the Australian Constitution, dating back to 1901. Natural justice has evolved over hundreds of years. You are innocent until proven guilty. The common law is upheld by the police, who are educated in the law. The police do not make up the law as they go along. Evidence is evidence. Evidence is collated in an open manner and can be examined by all. The whole process is transparent and it can be challenged. It is accountable to the courts and the government, and you can be represented at judgments. All decisions can be appealed by all parties. Natural justice does not allow the judge, jury and executioner to make their decisions behind closed doors. The common law and the police are respected by the community. So AHPRA and the national law came about 1st of July 2010, 7 years ago. It's now a marriage of 14 health professionals, and the paramedics, be careful what you wish for. Their mandate is to protect the public. It's very noble. However, their process is not transparent. There is no advocacy or representation in the early and even in the later stages. There is no appealability until judgment, and those judgments are generally inflicted significantly upon your career and any research activities you may be contemplating along the way. They are the judge, jury and executioner. They have little, and I actually believe no oversight, no effective oversight. If you appeal the process along the way, the Ombudsman refers it back to AHPRA for internal review. If you go to the Supreme Court, you can really only go there based on the appealability, on the process rather than actually the finding. That's certainly the case in my situation. I challenge the qualifications of the investigators, and I'll give you some information about that. And I'll also question the qualifications of the board members. So what do we know about the investigators? Well, this came out of the Senate inquiry last year. AHPRA have 180 investigators as of November last year. They paid about $92,000 per annum plus superannuation, according to a recent advertisement. 42 of those 180 have a background in health. That leaves 138 without any background in health, making judgment on us all. You'll be delighted to hear that 4 of them have a medical background. We're not actually quite certain what the qualifications of that are, but they have a medical background. 23 have a nursing and midwifery background, and the rest, I presume, come from the scattering of other health professions that are under the umbrella of AHPRA. So what are the health qualifications? Well, I'm not quite certain to actually make the judgments. What are their legal qualifications to be implementing a national law, or at least giving advice on that? And all That tends to leave me fairly saddened. So what do we know about the board members? Well, they're a combination of health professional and community members, roughly in a 2/3 to 1/3 distribution. They're expected to work about 1 day per month. They get paid $627 for that day's work, including travel and preparation time. So if you want to be on the board in Tasmania, you live in Launceston, it takes 2 hours to get down there, 2 hours to get back. So you're going to be paid 4 hours of travel time and preparation time. And the recent advertisement is you're expected to read about 1,000 pages of information for each meeting. Just to put that in context, War and Peace is about 1,200 pages. So on that day or in the days leading up to it, you're supposed to read 80% of War and Peace and remember it. So I believe that they must be relying on summary documentation. Very few board members are actually going to get through 1,000 pages of documents for each meeting. So where does the summary documentation come from? Well, that comes from presumably the investigators who are effectively not either qualified in medicine or in law. This is just logistics, okay? So by the numbers, well, AHPRA represents 675,000 and roughly another 22,000, I think, potentially coming up. They get about 10,000 notifications per annum. And this is all stuff on the Senate inquiry, all available information now. You have to trawl through it a bit. About 53% of the notifications are medical, and the board members need to be going through about 1,000 pages of documentation per month. Must be relying on some summary. And I'm definitely concerned about the preparation of the investigators and their qualifications to provide that information onto the board members, who are then supposed to make judgment. Then you've got the board members implementing a process, a national law that's in its infancy. I don't believe they're qualifications to do that. That has to lead to errors in judgment, and we today and the recent Senate inquiries have heard of many of these. The whole process is flawed and set up for failure. Now, I think the AHPRA process is one of intimidation. The whole process generally makes you feel guilty, and you need to prove your innocence. The notification comes by mail.
In a very obvious envelope.
And is dated, I get lots of them actually, and is dated well before you receive it. You generally have a response as to, there's a demand for you to respond within days, but in the document it will say, but you may want to seek some legal advice. These deadlines, and then to try and actually contact them and say, look, I've really just received this. I had to climb to the top of a hill on Fraser Island to make a contact a couple of years ago. So I've just received this notification again, and it's only because I had a text message sent by my sister-in-law. And I'm scrambling away, so look, I'm away, I can't possibly get there. Put it in writing, thank you. Responses from AHPRA are at the best glacial, if at all. An apology is unheard of if you're actually found to be not guilty. Your complaints, as I said before, even to the Ombudsman, are initially referred back to AHPRA for internal investigation. Requests under freedom of information are denied over and over. If you get anything back, it is redacted to incomprehensible. I even had my own correspondence finally returned to me as blacked out. Luckily I had the originals. So where do I fit into this unhappy marriage? Well, I'm in the interesting situation of being reported and cautioned for no patient harm, no patient complaint, nor any doctor complaint. I was reported for recommending reducing sugar intake for my obese and diabetic patients, and that's how it all started. It was determined ultimately that I was not qualified as an orthopaedic surgeon to be giving dietary advice. And in fact, my basic medical degree, and I have it in writing, does not give me the expertise to advise on nutrition. Dietitians reported me on 2 occasions, even though dietetics is not considered by AHPRA to require governance. The final determination included the words may, might, could, should, would on 32 occasions. there has not been any evidence of anything actually happening. The words has happened, did happen, is not in any documentation. My last notification included a complaint of what I might say at an upcoming talk to the hospital food industry that I was invited to speak to. AHPRA, in their wisdom, requested a copy of that talk before I gave it. I have that in writing. I declined their request. Silencing free speech, I believe, goes well and truly beyond the AHPRA's mandate. So where does AHPRA's bullying and harassment fit in for me? And I think they threw two rocks in the Senate inquiry. My original notification was in 2014. I presented to the November Senate inquiry on bullying and harassment in the hospitals and on what I thought were the failings of the AHPRA process. I won't go into the details of that, it's all on the public record. And many of you also provided submissions to that inquiry. I finished my verbal presentation around 11 a.m. I received my final determination by email, not by snail mail, at 1:43 p.m. on the same day. So within 3 hours of that presentation being live streamed, AHPRA decided to send the document. Under direct Senate questioning, this has been described as coincidental. I thought it was a bit more of that than that, and I think that is bullying and harassment. We announced this silencing on social media. I acknowledge that, and the public response was humbling. Independent of us, a public petition was organised. AHPRA was inundated with responses on Facebook, Twitter, emails and letters. Now, on a Wednesday afternoon, whilst I'm consulting, an email was sent to me by the Tasmanian State Manager of AHPRA, requesting for me to sign a release document allowing AHPRA to talk to the media about specifics of my case. Before signing the release, I was encouraged to seek independent legal advice. The AHPRA National Office then published one of only 25 media releases last year, and only one for a practicing health professional, that was me. That effectively stated that I've been obstructive. It was outlining details of my caution and inferring that I'd been misleading on the non-appealability of cautions. And I found this action intimidatory, as I'm only just one practitioner against the AHPRA system. I'll draw your attention to the time frame once again. 2:41 p.m, I received an email. 3:33 p.m, so it's 52 minutes. Now, a lot can happen on 52 minutes on a Wednesday afternoon. In that 52 minutes, whilst I'm consulting, I am supposed to know that I had an email, read it, comprehend it, seek independent legal advice, write a response to the Tasmanian State Manager so that she could then write to the National Office about what my response was. That then allows plenty of time for the National Office to draft a document, get their own independent legal advice, or presumably in-house legal advice, and then publish it. 52 minutes, quite amazing. This is AHPRA moving at lightning speed. They also managed to directly contact reporters that had never been contacted before to release that information. So what happened then? Well, the Senate inquiry sat for the second session on the 22nd of November, and Martin Fletcher, as the CEO of AHPRA, and he's here today and I'll welcome him, was quizzed directly on this in the Senate inquiry. He seemed remarkably well informed about my case, which is really only one of 10,000 that AHPRA received per annum. We wanted to move promptly. AHPRA moving promptly is sort of unimaginable, really. To quote, we advised him probably an hour before the statement went out that we were intending to release it. Well, I'll be gracious and just say, well, that was actually incorrect. The document didn't say that, but to be fair to Mr. Fletcher, he did change his answer in a 28th of November reply to the Senate inquiry, buried on page 5 of that 17-page document. But I do believe that Mr. Fletcher did manage to condone the behaviour of his senior administrators to that of bullying and harassment. So that pretty well leads us in a Senate inquiry into bullying and harassment that the most senior staff of AHPRA are supporting that culture of bullying and harassment. Now, I've reported that to the Senate inquiry and yet to hear back. So 2 days later, there's another media release. Now, I suppose my second for 2016. I'm certainly confused. The Medical Board of Australia today reinforced its expectation that registered medical practitioners provide appropriate dietary advice to patients. So where am I now? Well, my AHPRA experience continues, but that's not on here. So let me draw some comparisons between the common law and the national law. They're both there to protect the public. One has a history dating back several hundred years and the other one is in its infancy. One is based on natural justice and the other one is inquisitorial and done behind closed doors. One is you're innocent until guilty and the other one is you are guilty until proven innocent and there's no apology if you are in fact not guilty. In one you have representation and advocacy and the other you do not. One is transparent, one is done behind closed doors. Common law allows access to evidence and evidence is hidden under an AHPRA investigation and freedom of information does not expose it. One allows appealability by all parties and the other one is effectively non-appealable until judgments has happened. One is respected by the community and the other one is not respected by anyone apart from AHPRA. So I believe the culture of AHPRA is one of guilty until proven innocent. It is intimidatory. It condones bullying behaviour from the top to the bottom. It is not accountable at this point in time. I believe it's hypocritical. Practitioners are not cared for, even though they're supposed to be part of the public. Respect cannot be demanded, it needs to be earned. So AHPRA and the national law are 7 years old this year. You cannot continue to throw rocks in a glass house. Cracks are appearing in this 7-year marriage. In 1955 there was a movie called The 7-Year Itch. And this AHPRA marriage is in need of serious counselling and a change in direction because without change, divorce is imminent. My registrar sent this to me last night. And I've put it up for us all to read. History repeats itself. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. I am theoretically silenced on nutrition. I have asked AHPRA to clarify that, but they are yet to do so. I do acknowledge my wife, Belinda, who's here today, because as you know, you cannot do this alone. And my wife, who has not qualified at all, has taken on my nutritional information. And so family is all important in the health of us all, and particularly those who are under the process. Thank you.
Try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me.